This interview is brought to you guys by Steelhead Technologies, an all-in-one digital system built specifically for powder coaters like you. Have you seen what Steelhead has been able to do for powder coating shops? They have made it so easy to track parts, cost jobs, analyze data, and eliminate all double data entry and improve product quality with digital work. This is not only saving management time, but it's also giving them their nights and weekends back. It also has the power to make a good business into a great one. If you want to learn how Steelhead can help you and your powder coating shop, large or small, use the link down below for more information. All right, what is going on, everybody? We've got Palmer's Powders here with us today. This guy is making big waves on I think you are on social media. He's doing some of the coolest stuff out there right now. And most of you guys probably know who he is, so I'm not even going to get into it. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you got going on, where you're located, your equipment, and what your main business is.
I'm Ashton. I own Palmer's Powders. We're located up here in northern Idaho. I'm in Post Falls. So it's basically, if you're going to come from Washington and go to Montana, it's the first town you come through. And it's where all the nice views and the rich people live. But yeah, we got a little 4x4x6 foot oven from the Fab Shop. I got a little Trinco blast cabinet, Bel Air air compressor. I did get a newer air compressor. I got to get a phase converter, all that kind of stuff. Just thanks to you guys running the new Electron, wild.
We're going to get into that.
It's a game changer. I will say that. It's about time a real gun came out at a reasonable price, especially since there's so much, wear parts in these things. So,
right. So what were you using before the Electron?
I was using, this probably be a big surprise to everybody. I mean, I think everybody's pretty blind, but if you've watched my stuff or if you followed my stuff, you probably know by now. But I mean, ever since Palmer's Powders opened 5 years ago, I've been running a Cup knockoff Gema. So I like to call it the Chima, the Chinese Gema. To be honest with you, I have a real big love-hate relationship with it. I'm usually stressed out and have a bunch of anxiety that the cup's gonna just fall out and explode all the time. I'm sure.
But it gets the job done, right?
It gets the job done, and there's some days where I'm just blown away by the things that I can do with that gun and how, I don't know. It's, if you're a powder coater, I've used Nordson Versa Spray 2s that were made the year I was born.
What year was that?
91.
God, you're making me feel old.
But I'm feeling old myself. But I would say I've gotten pretty lucky with my journey or my career in powder coating. I got to start on a Versa Spray 2. And then from that, I went to, I don't know what year the Gema would have been, but one of the older versions of a Gema I sprayed on for a while. And then when I went to a different shop, I was on a Wagner Sprint X. Yeah. The most recent to the newest one that just dropped. But
yep.
I love.
Give me 1 minute.
You're good. Oh my goodness, it's Puppy. Just say hi to everybody. Say hello. French Bulldog love.
Sorry, man.
Oh, you're good, buddy.
Unfortunately, it's only 5:01 here, and my doors are still open.
That's the game we play, being the man of many things to take care of.
Yeah, I appreciate you hanging out. Okay, I don't even remember what we were talking about.
Guns. I was talking about how I was. I went from a Nordson, I went from the original Versa Spray 2 Nordson, and then went to a Gema at a different shop, and then the third shop I went to that I worked at.
You worked for other shops before you started on your own.
Yeah. So long
Give
story
us a
short,
little bit of that history.
Yeah.
I think people would like. So there's a lot of people that follow me that have no experience. They don't know what they're doing. They've never sprayed a thing. You went from a very nice setup, Nordson Gema, to
actually the buildings that I were in, I would say the equipment that I had to run at the shops. The first shop I ever ran was pretty
rough,
pretty gnarly. If you've seen the inside of that shop and the work that I was pulling out of that shop, you would be like, "How, dude?"
Yeah,
is it was never clean. The inside of the building is just black. everybody's like, doesn't that place have a dirt floor in it? Because it's so dirty. Like,
I know the feeling. I think if you went out my doors, you would see it.
Oh, I totally know. And like, I think that's the game we're all going to play, whether we're, like, you have to be like, okay, I'm going to try to do production or you're going to try to do custom.
Mhm.
And when you do custom, you can't do custom all the time. So you got to kind of go back and forth. And
Well, and if you're doing
sometimes
100% custom like you guys are doing, and
yeah,
a lot of like Roro, you can't have my shop conditions.
I mean,
to
mine
a
gets
degree.
my
to a
booth will
degree.
get pretty bad. And
Right.
if like for me, I'm pretty anal retentive. Like I try to clean the booth once a week. I try,
Right.
like I try to keep up on it. But when you get busy, sometimes you just can't do those things. And once I start seeing imperfections in gloss black or like the things that you could just go in. I mean, I get it. Not every time you can go in the booth and lay down glass, but
Right.
that's the intention every time. And then, maybe once out of the week, you'll have that era where you're like, oh
Right.
shit, we gotta, we gotta recalculate and calm down.
Right.
So, but I would say, so like, long story short, I dropped out of high school at 18 years old, and my brother, is a pretty well known airbrush artist and pinstriper, jack of all trades. Just, I mean, we grew up in the hot rod industry around here doing cars and Harleys and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up behind a liquid background and stuff. And I mean, if you guys can tell all the videos, my brother did this artwork. Me and my brother once shared this building years ago. So like he got it, he let me come in and work in here. And then I got pretty big pretty quick. And then he bought a house and a shop and moved out. And then I took over the shop. But that's,
So you guys own the shop? You don't rent?
No, I rent.
Okay. How
So
many
I
square
rent it.
feet?
Shit, I don't know. Not enough.
It never is.
Yeah. But I mean, a little backstory, like, I dropped out of high school. I grew up racing BMX and motocross. So like, I don't know, I grew up in like the golden era of the 90s of Supercross. Like Jeremy McGrath was like my idol, seeing cool custom painted helmets by Troy Lee, like that's where my head really resides. So, fast forward, racing BMX, local powder coating shop's kid raced BMX. He was pretty young, and that powder coating shop would like paint the gate and like a bunch of other stuff, or like, give up money for like pro-am races and stuff. So that the local powder shop was pretty involved with our local BMX track. And then he would kind of pick, like the top older kids like me and some other kids to come work for him. So like some kids that I knew that raced BMX already worked there. And one of them was a powder coater already. And I got hired on to be the sandblaster. I sandblasted for like 2 years for $8 an hour. And if you guys know what it's like up here in the wintertime, that ain't fun.
Well,
But
sandblasting in the summer is no more fun, really.
I used to sandblast in shorts and a tank top. And then we would just wear like the 3M face masks. Like the things we would do is
Tons of
bad.
PPE there.
Yeah. And then, I worked there for, I want to say I worked at Lake City Powder Coating for 8 years. Larry Woodall, he's the owner of Lake City Powder Coating. I pretty much owe everything to that guy because he was the dude that was like, if you can sandblast and you can paint cars like you do with your brother, powder coating is going to be your niche, dude. And all he basically told me was, this knob does your air, this knob does your powder, this knob does your fluidizing air, and then like, here's your power control. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah,
and I had to figure it out.
That's more than I ever got.
Yeah, and then like if I was having problems, he would come in and like help me dial in my gun and really show me what a nice fluffy soft cloud was like. So like I got a good idea, but then even by the time of me leaving there, like I was good at what I could do, but we were spraying hot a lot. Like we were doing a lot of things like which would be considered taboo in this industry.
It's really not, though. I'm gonna stop.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know.
So when I sold equipment, I would say like 60-70% of the shops I went into spray hot.
Well, that's production in a nutshell, dude. Like
exactly. That's what
I can show you.
You go on the forums and they're like, you can't spray it cold. You don't know what you're doing. You can't get in the fair. Like it's like, dude, it has nothing to do with that.
I totally get you. And a lot of it has to do with like the production side of things. Like when you're like, you can't compare production to the custom industry.
Right. Totally
because
different.
And even if you looked at liquid at the same aspect of like industrial liquid compared to custom liquid, and
Absolutely.
you mill checked industrial liquid beams outside, and then you went and mill checked like a cool lowrider custom paint job was the sickest thing you ever seen, it'd probably
Right.
be half the millage. So like, I mean, yeah, we could really go down the hot and cold side of things.
Do you have much experience in the liquid side, like on fab or production? Because when I sold
I sprayed roller coasters for Rocky Mountain roller coasters, and that was all
Okay.
PPG liquid.
So
And that was
did you guys
the nightmare.
measure your mills
Oh, yeah.
afterwards? What
Well, we
was
would
your
do
goal?
it while it was wet too.
What was your goal though?
Industrial, you're wanting to, like, I would say, you know, like primer and then your top coat color, you're at around 6, both
Yeah.
5.5, 6. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
typical. And then even if you were to mill check a brand new Toyota Tundra right off the line, it'll be at 5, 6.5.
Yeah.
And that's liquid.
Well, they've got e-coat, and then they're doing a primer and a top coat and a clear coat.
Yep.
So-
Plus your sealers and shit.
Right. So that makes sense with 6, but we were in a lot of liquid shops, and like they would do test runs where they would check their mill wet, but they would never do it afterwards.
Yeah,
Like, once
I
they
love
got
to
going-
bounce. I had to bounce, like I would go, because we were spraying these huge, you know, I-beams to make these roller coasters. And I would have to, you know, they would come out of the blast room and it was all on like huge chain over, like it was like 5 football fields of
Yeah.
a building. It was
Yeah.
huge. So I would run the crane all the way to the paint booth with the thing on it, push it into the like a side mount, big, huge paint booth, blow it all off, get it all ready. And then I'd have to go back and mix my primer. And it was, you know, the powdered primer with your liquid, mix that all up, throw it in the pressure pot, and just, you know, spray and pray, baby. Just pave and cave. Let's roll. And
They didn't care about the looks; they just wanted the millage.
no, they cared because like
Oh, they
Rocky
did care.
RMC is like the biggest. Back then, they were building the biggest and fastest roller coasters. Like China was buying them, Japan was buying
Really?
them. Yeah, like they were huge, and they're still pretty huge. But yeah,
I think a lot of the painters, especially that are doing what you're doing, or came from like I came up, they don't have prior experience working for other painters. So I
Right,
feel like
that's for
you
sure.
might have had a shortcut to where you're
Oh,
going
dude,
a little
like,
bit.
I spent
ton,
10
but-
years I was 10 years in the industry as an applicator
Right. Yeah.
prior to opening a business.
So
And that was the good thing. Like when I left the first shop and I left, and I'm like thinking, you know, because I was the lead painter there, and we were the busiest shop in town, and everybody would come by. Oh, you're the best, and you know, it fills your ego and whatnot.
Right.
And then I go to work for a different shop in town that was like the next best shop at the time, and I walked in there, and it was like I felt like I didn't know my foot from my ass.
fish
You
out
know,
of
like,
water. Yeah.
and that was just, you know, like watching. Like at my old shop that I first started at, we had one long cart that went in and out, and I would rack that thing up with like 60 feet of handrail at a time, or wheel, you know, put like 15 wheels on it at a time and just roll. And
Right.
then I went to a different shop that had multiple carts and stuff, and I never experienced that kind of production. And then
They were trying to be more batch, like.
yeah, they
well,
were way more batch, way bigger batch, you know.
Well,
and
they're
then
also trying to flow like so I always train my employees like on the batch side, we want to prep a cart, we want to wash a cart, we want to dry a cart, we want to paint. We need something in every stage. At all
yeah, now
times.
multiply that by like 10 carts and
Right.
spray,
Right.
prep it
We
and
were
spray
like
it all
5
by
carts.
fucking noon. You know, like
Yeah, that's how
and-
we were. It was all production before we got our
Yep.
line. It's like go, go, go. And like I'd walk out and from my office and be like, why is no one washing a cart right now? Like this, like
it
you
ain't
just
lunchtime
effed
yet.
up
Let's go.
yeah, you mess up the whole day if you're one stage behind, and people don't understand that. And it's
Well, and then it was like I went from that shop to the final shop that I was at before I came here, and that was the biggest. We had the biggest oven in 2019 this side of the Mississippi. So we had a 50-foot GFS booth, a 50-foot rapid fire oven, and then we custom built a reclaimed sandblast booth that was the same size. So I was doing motor, like big, huge weldments for Rolls-Royce motor airplanes. We were like, I was doing some of the, like probably some of the biggest stuff that ever got powder coated in Idaho State.
Yeah, you had way more experience than most people in your
and that's when I was on the Wagner. So back to like the gun thing is like at that final stage, I got on the Wagner, and then there's a guy named Alex. He's a rep for Cardinal powder coating, and Alex is probably the biggest. I would say he's the biggest equation in my whole career. Like he came in and he was like, "Damn, this kid's got talent, but he doesn't know his foot from his ass from like the technical side of things and the right wording and this, that, and the other." So Alex really did his due diligence and would come in monthly and spend hours like, dude, your gun control, like, I don't have to tell you how to paint. He was like, I need you to know like the chemicals. I need you to know this. I need you to know that. Like, so he really gave me like my industrial knowledge is probably far greater than what I am custom wise. I'm just like, as a custom painter, I mean, I would say now, like with all the stuff that I've done for a long time, I wouldn't even consider myself a custom painter. We're like scientists at this point because
you're playing with shit.
It's all trial and error, you know, like,
and,
yeah. And it's like, how can we figure out how to spray white under red to not get it come through? You know, like stuff like that, you know, like that's what I would say that
it becomes
the main
fun
difference
at that
is.
stage though. Like when you're, well, when you're waiting for a paycheck, it's not so much fun. But so back in my early stages, if you look back like 5 years ago when I was having fun with things, when I was doing the splatter stuff.
Yeah, dude, I've been following you forever, watching you do like, I was doing a lot of that stuff too.
I was watching, I think your videos, I was watching some other people's videos, and I'm like, oh my God, I am so old. Like half of the stuff I did 4 or 5 years ago is now popular on like TikTok and Instagram. And I'm like, I was too early. I
scroll back 5, 6 years on my Instagram and you'll be like, why didn't I know this kid?
Right. That's the thing. Like nobody was sharing their stuff on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There was no TikTok, but TikTok has blown all this stuff up. And I'm like, man, I was liquefying powder and spraying it through stencils 5 years ago and creating like logos on wheels, and nobody cared. Nobody, like no views, no one cared. If I relist it as a YouTube now, they're like, oh, that's old. That's not a big deal. I'm like, no, I did this 5 years ago. So I was sitting there, I posted a video today of me like powder coating a white wheel. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm an OG.
Yeah.
I may not have earned it, but I'm going to call myself that.
I don't know. I've been watching you. I can't even remember. I've been watching your YouTube stuff for years, it seems like. I remember that really that round plate that you did all like the galaxy splatter on and stuff. Like
that was for a children's hospital.
That's cool. And I think you did a set of wheels like that. You did a wheel like that too, right?
Yeah, we did the wheel first, and that's actually where so we like threw dry powder at a hot wheel so it would stick. But then we also, I did wheel repair. So we did solvent painting.
Yeah.
And we took the paint thinner and we mixed it with powder. And we were like, you can flick it on and do the splatter effect with this. And then it just evaporates out.
Dries off.
And then you can powder, once it evaporates out, put it in the oven. So we figured that out so long before like the people that are doing it now. And they're doing it now.
Surprised. You'd be surprised at the things that I've cleared over that weren't even powder.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's crazy. But like nowadays, those are what's getting the hits on YouTube and TikTok and all that. And it's like, God, I was way too early. Like we were powder coating base or golf balls, pizzas, t-shirts.
Golf balls?
Yeah, I powder coat a golf ball.
That's cool.
We did a golf club. We did my guy who worked for me, he might have drank too much one night and burnt a Tostino's pizza and fell asleep, and it turned into basically a brick of coal. And I was out doing sales. This is back in 2020 when I worked for Gema. Or I didn't work for Gema. I worked for a company that sold Gema. And I literally come back in the shop and they're powder coating this pizza in chrome from like prismatic powders, and I'm like, what the hell? And so we recorded, we like redid it as a like what really happened.
Yeah.
And the video did horrible. I think I have less than 1,000 views on it. And it's like,
Yeah.
what?
And then Zach will powder coat a pumpkin and get like 1 million views.
Right? Right?
It's pretty funny.
If I was Lacey Blair, the followers I would have.
Don't get me started, bro. Don't get me started.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Or Scott's Coates. If I was as cute as Scott Coates, I would have.
Scott Coates is like Scott Coates. We don't deserve Scott. The powder coating industry does not deserve Scott.
So I will say I'm good friends with Scott, and he will not do this interview.
Scott fucking. This is how much Scott loves me. He texted me one day and he's like, "Yo, what's your favorite color?"
Dude,
and
you're the
and I was
the reason you have a gun.
I know. So he texted me one day and I'm driving home and he's like, "What's your favorite color?" And I'm like, I was obsessed with Blue Belly at the time. And it's this really cool, like almost flat finish, but it's like, if you look at it, it kind of looks black-ish blue.
Is that when prismatic?
Yeah, but when you get it and you turn it, it like turns blue and purple, like the belly of a newt or something, you know?
Right.
So he was like, "No, I was asking you like regular colors, dude." And I'm like, "I don't know, black." And he's like, "You're fucking boring." And then this shows up.
I saw that. I saw that.
This shows up in the mail, and dude, it's like the same color as Blue Belly, and I'm like, "Holy shit!"
he is a big fan of yours for sure.
Oh yeah, he called me today, and he's like wanting to help me out, and I'm just like, "Brother, you ain't got to do that." And he's like, "But I want to, Ashton." So
he helps us sell a ton of our Electron guns. Honestly, I
got a bunch of people in Australia wanting them.
Well, I'm not a distributor there, so that doesn't He though, seriously, God though, he loves a gun. He's like me. He had Gema, and now his Gema's in the corner. It's like, and I've sent him a comment. I'm like, dude, are you just trying to help me out, or is this for real? And he's like, no, dude. Like, seriously, your gun is that good, and for the price point, why would you buy a Gema? And I'm like, well, I mean that means anyone who uses it.
Have you figured out the double click feature with it yet?
No, I hate it.
You hate it?
It's a good upsell, but I hate it.
That's why I love the Wagner, because I would set my, like, let's say you have a recoat setting, right?
Right.
And for your guys that are in there spraying on the line and they got like Faraday City Central, but then it's also flat parts. It's nice to be able to roll with like your higher KV setting that you want it to cover faster, but it doesn't want to go into certain areas. Bop, bop.
The problem is I'm so old. You know where I'm going.
Read the book.
I have a corner, I'm double tapping it to get it to go into the corner, and it changes the recipe.
Yep. That's why you gotta save it. You gotta save, like, I have like my first setting at a certain setting, and then my second setting's like my lower setting that I can bounce. Like, I could probably, that would be a fun thing to do, is see how many layers I could go before it starts to like charge. I guarantee you I could probably go 10 coats on like 50 kV 10 UA.
Easily, but you know what you're doing. That's the thing.
I don't get it though.
The people that are back ionizing don't have any idea how to paint. I'm not trying to be mean.
I get it.
They're here trying to put a second coat on, wondering why it's back ionizing. Like, you know what I mean?
You'd be surprised with how close I get. I get pretty close.
But are you cranking up your powder and dropping your air?
My air on my Electron right now, I was spraying ink black today, and I have my percentage at 47 and my air's at 2.4.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And then my KV
you have
is
a big cloud and a little bit of air, so you're not blowing.
Yeah, and that's where people don't. I'm so glad you fucking said that, because people don't understand. Okay, let's say whether your KV is through the moon or whether your KV is low. That is a great thing, whether you can spray that way or not. But the major thing when it comes into getting back ionization or charge spots is a lot has to do with the pressure of the air coming out. per powder. You
Yeah, you're
always
gonna
want
blow that
less.
shit off of there.
And you got to think about it. Like if the air's blowing harder at that surface, then all it's getting is electricity. That's all it's getting.
Yeah.
So then you know, like when I first got here and I got it all together, and then I was like, I'm not going to spray with it today because I need to go get a cart to put it all on and stuff. And then I was like, nope. So I set it all up, like moved my bench top over and over, and had to spray with it that day. And at first I was like, whoa, this thing's like, you know, it made me feel like I was back on the Wagner again, because that's what I was trying to explain with my knockoff Gema is like,
We're
I'm
trying
telling.
to be above Wagner, so let's go above Wagner.
No, I get you. It is. I'm getting there. That's why I fell in love with it, because with the Gema, it was like it being a knockoff. Like, okay, let's say I set it like the same I set this thing, but that gun will spray totally different and cover totally different than that being on the same setting. And who's to say that the programming on the knockoff, you know, me telling it 50 kV, whatever air, who's to say that that's actually what it's conveying off the machine compared to like the Electron? I know that when I'm at 50-10 with my power settings, I know that's exactly what I'm getting.
Right.
You know, and then like if you that's one thing these people need to understand too, is like if you were to spray a panel, like just get like a panel of some sort. You don't even have to prep it or anything. Just hang a panel in a shop, ground it really good, and then spray it, but like get yourself to where you can see the box. And when you're coming, whether you're 6 inches away from your panel or 2 inches or a foot away, you're going to watch your KV and your UA go move. So like once you kind of
see that on the Wagner, can you?
No, because it's dots.
Yeah. They never upgraded their systems. I don't understand it.
I don't either. I think I would say like the really major love affair that I have with the gun is the trigger, just because it's a button and not like it's not a full like, ooh, you know. But I would say the ergonomics, how the Electron feels in the gun, it's hands down the most comfiest gun I've ever had in my hand. Like if I was back at the old shop, you know, spraying for 10 hours a day with a 10-minute lunch break, like that would have been so nice to have in my hand.
So it's funny because a lot of people that watch my channel don't have your experience with like industrial spraying. And so I didn't either until I went and sold for a company that sold Gema, and we'd go into these big factories, and the ergonomics of the gun were such a big deal. Like,
oh yeah,
they're like, oh, it's so heavy. And I'm like, what are you talking? I'm like, this thing doesn't weigh anything. And it's like, dude, it does. And then we got busy here at my shop, and you're spraying for like 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And you're like, oh my God, my shoulder, my arm.
Put a cup and a Lumalite on your gun and tell me how heavy it is then.
So I'm not going to badmouth Lumalite. They actually sent me one of their lights for free.
Did it discharge?
Yes.
I'm having the same problem. I put it on and it ran perfectly fine. And then I went to a high setting and it just shorted out the light.
So the light battery just died, and it's heavier than shit. So my employees loved it. They were like, it's awesome. And this is on our Electron Plus 3, which has a light built in. Which
I run them like both on.
Right. Well, the little light on our gun is not meant to be like a big light. It's meant to check parts, check corners, all that sort of thing.
I like it. Even like it's not that bright. Like there's not that much lumens coming out of it. But like if you hold the light down and it blinks, it'll stay on for longer.
We're working on different things. So stay tuned. We want to work a setting where you can adjust it. Like you can keep it on all the time, keep it off. The bigger worry is that the light will get hot and powder will bake onto it. So you won't be able to see, which is going to happen.
But that lens unscrews.
It does, and we have replacements, which is nice. But we're still fine tuning that. But it's nice to have that on there, and it's wired in.
Dude, it's insane. It's like this gun it had a baby with every perfect thing from every gun manufacturer.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so in love with it.
So the nice thing with Electron, and so number one, when they reached out to me, I wanted nothing to do with them. I sold Gema. I had 2 Gema Opti Pros in my shop. to me, there was no better gun. I'm like, you're not going to beat this. Like, I don't care who you are. And the rep from Sirkin, actually, my contact there, is like, you're going to like it. Just try it. It's better than Nordson. It's better than Wagner. It's better than Gieman. I'm like, there's no way. And he's like, buy one. Just buy one. I'll sell it to you half off. And I'm like, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And he's like, we just sent you one. Just try it. See what you think. If you like it, make a video. And I'm like, I'm going to make a video either way. I don't care.
Right.
Like, they didn't pay me to not make a video. So that first video where I was spraying a box with it, that's live. Like, we didn't cut anything out. And I was like, oh shit, this thing's good. I'm like, damn.
That's like when I turned it on, and then like I went to go clear with it, and I'm like, holy cow. And then it was like I went to bounce my last pass, and then it just like popped on me like a bunch of charge spots, and I was like, holy crap, this thing's got way more power than I'm used to.
What you were used to, yeah.
So
and that's
it's
the
like,
thing. A lot of people
it's going to take me a couple months to get just as warm with it. You know what I mean? And I'm going to order a cup for it, and I want to see how it is off a cup too.
Well, we're testing a cup right now. So hold on. I'm going to go grab it.
Keep Scott in that loop, because did you see the one he's?
I've been talking to him.
Okay, good. That's like I would say I love, like, I don't hate box feeds. Like, I would love to have a box feed. Is that the one that has like a jet inside it?
So
that neck.
We introduced this at FabTech. So you have like your typical. I don't even know if we make these. I can't claim that we do, but it's your typical attachment here.
Those quarter turn caps are the shit, though.
Yeah, I like them. So this part though is 100% Electron made. So they manufacture this.
My God, they actually built one.
Yeah. So this is a full pump. This is the same pump that you get with our gun, which I'm not going to. So see the insert in there?
Yeah, it might work better than what's on the market right now.
I have not tried it yet. I've had it since FabTech for a couple of weeks.
The main thing when you're using the cup, grab your bag, spin it, and shake it with air in the bag. Get stuff loose. Get it loose as you can, and then pour it into the cup. Do not pack the cup.
You can never fill any type of hopper type thing, but I'm not a hopper guy. I'm not a cup guy, but so many people are so sold on these.
But that's what I was.
This is literally from the FabTech show. I stole it. Like, I'm like, I put it in my bag, and they're like, "Hey, where'd that go?" And I was like, "I don't know." So,
I don't know. Now they're gonna know.
Hopefully they're not. I don't know. They don't watch my channel.
You're like, nobody watches this.
Nobody.
It's okay. It's no, that's what I was getting ready to get into though. Like, I love a pressure pot, like a fluidized pot, over a box feed, in my opinion. Like, I love the box feed. I love like I would say the simplicity and like the ease of cleaning, because everything's just kind of like hanging there. You're not unscrewing like the pot. I would say that's like the disadvantage, but I like the pressure pot more than the box feed, because I feel like I can dial in my cloud a little bit better, or you can kind of run less pressure. You know what I mean? You're not having to try to like suck something from this box that's vibrating, and like, like it's not a battle to keep it. It's just not as fluidized in a box, I feel like. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. Especially if you're doing metallics, or like the why can't I think of the name?
Dude, this gun with metallics is like amazing.
Way better.
I'm seeing such a difference in just how it's laying.
The best way to fluidize a metallic is a hopper. You know? I mean? But to be honest, I've never once, outside of the Eastwood gun, never sprayed out of a bottle, hopper, anything. Like, we went right from an Eastwood gun to the KCI Korean gun box feed unit. Like, that was my jump. And then we went from that to Gema, and then from Gema to Electron. Like, I've owned 3 brands in my life, and that's
a painful jump.
Which way?
From Eastwood on.
Well, it was a pain. I mean, the gun was only like $3,000, but at the time I was looking at like, the one thing I'll say a lot on my channel, everyone who's an entry level powder coater, they worry about their oven, they worry about their paint booth, they worry about their air compressor. The last thing they worry about is their gun. And then they have no money for their gun and they're buying a cheap, crappy gun. And then they're fighting the way the powder goes on the part. And I'm like, buy a crappy oven. Right? I sprayed in an open room without a paint booth for 2 years. Like, save your money on all that crap and then go to it. Like, get the better gun that's going to make your life. Like, KCI is not a great gun, but it did the job.
Well,
I
it's
didn't
like,
know how
I
to
mean,
use it. I didn't know how to adjust it. And I was on the Facebook groups and all that and couldn't get help because no one knew anything. It was a bunch of amateurs guessing.
yeah, it's just an echo chamber, man. Like,
right.
This industry, that's what like really bums me out is like growing up with my brother that's a pretty decorated liquid painter. Like he has PPG certs. He has a lot of these certifications from, you know, when those companies find you to be a good commodity for them, they get you educated.
Right.
And that's what kind of makes me sad is like I feel like that's where the fall in, you know, the difference between I understand that liquid is very expensive material wise. But I don't know why our industry is considerably cheaper to get something done when our oven, our paint booth, our guns, just one gun, you could go buy 4 paint guns for, like an Iwata or a Seda. Like the cost of entry to get in and figure this stuff out, and then you fuck it up, and then you realize it cost you more to strip it than it did the whole time to paint the damn thing. So it's
these were our neighbors at FabTech.
heck yeah.
He gave me a little keychain paint gun and this mouse pad, and we fed him food.
And we fed him food. I just got an LPH 80.
Nice.
Sprayed some Cerakote. I came in at like 5 o'clock Saturday night. Sprayed some Cerakote.
I saw your video. So. I don't mean to get you off topic here, but
yeah, I'm being pushed into that corner.
Let's talk about that because I've when I first got into powder in my new building, I did a lot of the Cerakote, and I was actually talking to the Prismatic guy, the salesman at FabTech, because they were like 2 doors down from us, and they were literally just there pushing the Cerakote. Really, what are your thoughts on the prep process? How is it much different than the powder coat? Because with Cerakote, everything has to be perfect for it to adhere. Have you had any issues? Or
not yet. Not yet, knock on wood. But I mean, I sprayed back in the day when I worked at that first powder shop that I was talking about. He had me spraying a ton of headers. We were doing that chrome stuff, and then we were doing the black.
That's what actually got me out of doing it.
Yeah, but back then the chrome stuff was actually... The chrome stuff back then was actually good. Like you could actually spray it and you wouldn't have issues. They've reformulated it how many times since then? I haven't tried the chrome.
It's so hard to get good coverage on headers though, because you have to wet over wet, you know, wet edge to wet edge, and you have to get it all the way around the pipe, and you have to do it in a pretty timely fashion.
I use the C7600 so you can air dry it. I like to let it bounce till it like dries off looking, and then I'll throw it in the oven at like 200 for 20 to 30 minutes, and then at that point, I think that's where people are getting it to fail, is they're just letting it air dry. And not that that's bad, but if you think about it, like right now we're coming in the wintertime, things are a lot colder. Like, and then also like super, super hot days, I could see it drying too quick, and then you're gonna get solvent pop. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is.
It's
and
very finicky.
It is very finicky, but I will say this, and that was my major reason why I was like, I'll never do Cerakote. I don't like Cerakote. And when you're a powder coater and you see the strength of powder and understanding like or not necessarily chemical resistance, but like impact resistance and, scratching and just stuff like that, or just it being outside on wheels and driving through salt spray and stuff, like understanding how tough powder is, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to put this thin film coating on to be like, I understand the difference, like with motor parts or stuff that have heat. Like, yes, you can't put powder on that, but I was very against Cerakote, like because a lot of the vape stuff I was doing years ago all came with Cerakote on it, and it was all failing, and it was just not good. So that was majorly one of my marketing strategies when I first started my business is a lot of these companies are using Cerakote. It's failing. I can offer you way more colors. I can offer you way different textures, way more vibrancy with powder. So I was way powder forward. So now I would say the thing that's changed my mind is after powder coating for this long, and, let's say you do a set of calipers and you stencil pulled them and everything, and then one of them or half of them mess up and you got to chem strip that stuff and start all over. It's like the stress of having to redo powder if you don't have the right stuff to do it quick enough is very stressful. But let's say I messed up one of those pipes I did the other day, toss that right in the blast cabinet, rip it right off in 2 seconds,
that
and
is
start all over.
What worries me about it is how easily it blasts.
So tell me about it, bro.
Because I've been there. I've that's why I stopped doing it, because I kept feeling like everything we did, like the lift off, like it just wasn't adhering.
It blows right off.
Right. That scares the crap out of me.
I would say, so like if you get something that's Cerakoted good, I've dumped it in chemical strip. I've put it in everything. I've put anything you could think of on it,
and it's solid,
and it's like that's what makes me like, this is cool. Like the chemical resistance with this stuff is unreal. But it's just like I kind of compare it to anodizing. Like anodizing fades, don't get me wrong, but it's like in that same window of like where my brain thinks of like, I mean, anodizing is a dye and it's impregnated the aluminum,
right? It's not gonna peel off of there.
But it's like what I think of Cerakote is it's a thin film coating. So it's not necessarily there for scratch resistance. It's not there to, like take impact. I mean, yeah, you impact it, it's going to dent and you're not going to see it chip if it's not too thick. But I just think it's a cool thing for, I don't know, like it's gotten me excited. It's, it's given me a little bit more.
My hat is off to anyone who's willing to do it and do it right. Because you have extra steps to make sure that part is 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, you could be just as anal retentive with prepping for powder as
absolutely.
You could Cerakote too, and I
think with powder though, there's a little bit more leeway. Like
dude.
So I remember when I first started, everyone's like, "Oh, you got to outgas everything, I don't outgas anything now, unless it comes in and there's like a layer of, salt or the salt corrosion on it."
Where are you located?
Iowa.
So you're in like mid.
We're not middle. Different. Me and you, we aren't different.
But
I don't wear overalls every day, but that's a comfort thing.
I got sick of pulling my pants up every day, dude.
Yeah, no, you just let them fall.
Yeah. I mean, all I got is a dog here, so
it's a trademark look.
Yeah, main reason why I started wearing overalls is because like these dirt bike companies were starting to make overalls for like gear.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, these are so comfy. And then
they really are.
I started wearing them to work too.
I don't blame you. Do you wear them year round?
No.
You cut them off at the knee in the summertime?
No, in the summertime, I'm in like Vans slip-ons, long socks, Volcom shorts, and a t-shirt.
Right. Powder coating 1 minute, skateboarding the next.
No, I would never step foot on a skateboard.
No?
I would break a hip.
So outside of powder coating, what do you got going on?
Outside of powder coating, I got, my 2 kids that I love and take care of dearly. I'm a single dad, so that's it. But I would say the main thing that I'm obsessed with and that makes Palmer's Powders, get up and do the daily thing every day is I'm obsessed with motocross. I was brainwashed as a child on that stuff, so I'm a huge fan. And that like powder coating was really like the thing, running my business. It was cool because like I get to somewhat, live my pipe dream as a professional motocross racer or a BMX racer. And, I get to live my dream through people that I get to paint for. So,
Stay
like
in
I've
the
got
industry. Yeah.
I've got a powder coat stuff for some really cool, famous motocross riders and stuff. So that's really cool.
You do this, I forget, you might have already said, but like, what's your percentage of business, like motocross versus everything else, like motorcycle related versus?
Well, I would say, so like quick story, like my meal ticket to start my own business, like I was painting, for somebody else for years and years and years. And the last shop I was at, my daughter's mom bought me one of those cheap, like, you remember the Craftsman, like hair dryer powder coating guns?
I've seen them. I've never used one.
She bought me one of those for $40 off of eBay. And then the neighbor was having a garage sale one day and they had a little toaster oven. And for $20, she bought me this little convection toaster oven. And I started, I'd go and paint all day at work and I'd come home and I'd take little bags of powder home with me, snag some colors that I wanted.
It's probably what was just left in your pockets.
No, I was scooping bags, dude. Like I was plugged.
I was trying to help you out.
They know. They didn't give a fuck. But yeah, I started, I'd go home and I'd paint vape stuff all night in my garage. And then that, like one thing led to another. And I started powder coating stuff for the biggest names in the vaping industry. And I did that for a good long time. Like last summer, I did 580 something or 560 something vapes for a company out of Indonesia. And they were silver base, illusion raspberry. Well, it was silver base, and then I put the stencils on it, and then illusion raspberry, and then clear. So like I would do 25 a day. I would spray silver, flash the silver, pull it out, cool it down, stencil them all, and then rack them all up, and then spray the illusion. And then I have a little tiny cool coat benchtop oven, and I would stick like, I want to say I would stick like 5 to 6 in there at a time, flash them to a certain point, and then peel, and then rack them up on my bigger rack, stick them on the bigger rack, flash those, pull them out, and then cool them down, and then recoat it with all clear. I did like 500 something of those at like, was it like 40 or $50 a piece?
Nice.
And 30 something days. So we rolled like 20 G's in a month off of vape stuff. And then I told everybody to piss off because I got sick of it. Like I did nonstop vape stuff for years, I'm like, I needed to get away from it. I needed to get back to what was truly, I get it. Like my real love. Like that's, like I did a bunch of stuff for tons and tons of vape companies all over the world, Indonesia, Australia, Europe, Russia. Like my work's all over the world. And that's, if you look at my Instagram and you're like, how does this kid have so many followers? Like, I mean, 12 isn't nothing, but that's where all my,
what do you got?
Well, I'm at 12.3
million.
No, 1,000. I wish million. I'd probably be making money.
So if you want to shout out your what's your names on everything?
Palmer's Powders on Instagram and Facebook. My Facebook, I usually on Facebook I post on my personal page, which is just Ashton Palmer.
Yeah.
That's where you'll see a lot of the stuff if I want to post on Facebook. It's hard to, like
keep
post
up with it all.
Instagram, Facebook business. And then like ever since they changed like how easy it was to access your business page through Facebook, it's just kind of like a pain.
I get it. I always going back to Scott. the dude is nonstop.
I don't get it. How do you make tools products, and paint?
He runs a powder coating shop. He makes products for the powder coating shop, and he never stops uploading on social media. And so for reference,
he's a unicorn, bro.
Right. He's blowing me out of the water in uploads, and I pay a guy to do it full time.
What I don't get is
doing a better job.
Oh, then it's like you look at him and then you'll look at like, I don't know, it's like Roro's page. Like his page is insane because it's just everything is like not just the work, like minus the work. Don't even think about the work.
It's editing.
It's the editing. It's the way he takes pictures. It's the way he words things. Like it's like you want to see somebody that's professional in the way they present themselves. Look at that dude.
Yeah.
Like that, him and Robert Soka, RMP Performance,
You
were
know
literally
what? I need to-
literally my biggest inspiration.
I
like
wonder if I can get him on. Me and him have been friends forever because we both started in the wheel repair business.
Robert is
Like,
insane.
Since I started business, me and him have been friends on Facebook, Instagram, all
Yeah.
that.
I
he's
started
so-
following Robert, like when I first started my business. So like I'm behind on like watching his come up.
right. Yep. He goes through like lulls, so he's like nonstop, and then he'll take a break, and then he's nonstop, and he'll take a break. But
Oh man, dude, that guy's ADHD central. So I could only imagine he's just like
he has my brain. Like I haven't started an ammo company like he started, but t-shirts.
I love that.
I've had a t-shirt company. I had a print press. I mean, I'm every time he does something, I'm like, oh my god, we're like the same person. But
Yeah.
he's way funnier than I am, and he
I just
does a way better job of polishing wheels and all that. And it's funny to hear him like
His-
troll people with his like, here's my new chrome. And people
yeah,
are like,
his
people are like, oh damn, that's nice chrome. And I'm just
I
like,
missed when he was feistier because he would like
yeah,
he would like fuck with Tom, I've known Tom Espo for years. Like
Yeah.
he was probably like the first powder coater that I really followed.
yeah, me too.
And I've been in contact with Tom for shit since I was at like the first powder shop I worked at.
really.
And then like his buddy Nick that does the polishing next to him, like when he was in his old building.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of the guy's
It's
last
I
name.
think it's NPB on
Yeah.
Instagram or something.
Yeah.
He's always tagged in Tom stuff, but him
Yeah.
and Tom and Robert, they
Espo
all
was
used to just
huge. Yeah.
like they
And
used to
then-
just go back and forth on like Instagram stories all the time. It was so funny.
Who's the Laporte guy? Is it Laporte?
Laporte.
The old guy? So there's an older guy in the industry who knows everything about powder coating. If you say the wrong thing, he's going to rip you apart. And I wish I could remember his name.
Oh, Thresh 99 or something.
I don't know I thought it was Laporte, but that might be Facebook. I don't know what he is on other social media.
I've heard
But he
whispers.
actually he's not dumb. He knows what he's talking about, but he has no filter. Like he will call you out if you're being dumb. And I just sit on the sidelines and laugh.
I think
he-
he was on I think he might have been on a podcast before, or maybe I'm thinking of a different dude, but he was talking, one of those old heads was talking about like doing like dental, like spraying dental work and stuff, like where they would hire in certain painters to come in and spray certain mill thicknesses. And I'm like, I think that's a pipe dream, but okay.
Well, I know him and Nick, or Robert, they used to have like competitions where they, back in like before I was even in it, they would like pass around challenges, like try to powder coat this, try to powder coat this. And that goes back I didn't even know they were doing it. And that's when I was bored. Like I just bought this shop and we weren't that busy. And my brother worked for me and I'm like, let's just see what we can powder coat. And so we powder coated anything and everything. We just will the powder stick. We did a leaf. We did a golf ball, golf club, pizza. I mean, if you could find it, we tried to powder coat it. A t-shirt, all kinds of stuff. We were just bored. And I remember it was like Robert Lapointe or something. And he's gonna probably rip me apart.
He's gonna call you out.
Dude, he's never reached out to me and been like, hey, we should be friends. But the guy's been in the industry forever and he knows what he's talking about, but he just rips on, if you say something wrong, he has no mercy for you. And it just,
I'm kind of at this point, like if you think about it, it's just, everybody, I could tell you my gun settings necessarily aren't going to work in your neck of the woods because
right.
the pressure in your shop or the barometric pressure and, like just humidity, dryness, it's totally different. So
yeah,
that's why it's hard for this industry to learn. It's hard for people to understand because not every time it's the same. And then like
Yeah, you got
I
to take
spray,
in all of the outside factors to adjust it.
and then, like if you watch me spray compared to like how Rose sprays or how Zach sprays, like we're three different human beings. Like I have a liquid background, so like I try my hardest to constantly try to spray like I'm spraying liquid.
Slow
and
down. Slow
flick
down.
the wrist. It's all on your wrist. Like old Happy Gilmore's, buddy said, it's all in the hips. When you're spraying, it's all in the wrist.
When
Like-
I train a liquid painter, my main thing is I need you to slow down. We can't fluidize the shit out of this. You're not going to run it. Just slow down because they want to go. And I'm like,
Or
no,
it's just like even
let
just
it build up.
shaking constantly. Like I'm not against shaking, but I mean, like if you're spraying a vein or you're spraying a hammer tone, like hammer that stuff on there so that vein's going to pull gorgeous. It's going to look like brain cells and not like cheap silver vein looks like,
Right.
like, or light silver vein. But I mean, I just try, like, I think if you're all over the place, like it's not going to be even.
Right.
It's not going to be.
When I see someone go in there and they're like,
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
don't
like,
get me wrong. I'll get
that's-
the little here
Right.
and there, but
around hooks and around Faraday areas and stuff. But if you watch the biggest eye-opening thing I've ever seen is going into a plant and watching them powder coat radiators. And the radiator just goes through the automated guns, and the automated guns aren't doing anything. They're back and they're like this, like offset, and the part goes through it. They don't move, they don't shake. You don't need to do that. Like if your guns are set up right, the powder's gonna just flow.
It's literally charged with electricity for a reason.
Yeah. Like there are times where you'll need to like
don't get me wrong.
I think that's like baseballs.
Yeah, like if you're trying to get into like a Faraday, like wow, like or like circle, like.
And what you're doing there is you're pushing the charge one way, and you're allowing the powder to flow into that area without overcharging it.
And if you think about it, if you're having like Faraday issues and you're like trying to like feather something in, like you think about it, you're pushing weight into it. If you can go don't pull the trigger, put the gun through, pull the gun, and then come backwards, and then you allow the electricity to come through backwards.
Yep.
You'll get, it's pretty crazy. Like,
and the powder just floats in.
Yeah, I could go on for days and days about, like, I don't know, but that's just what's comfortable to me. It's like even people like watching. I had like 4 or 5 people reach out to me while I like posted that Cerakote stuff, and they're like, "You need to do this, this, and this." And like, I respect that. Like I'm not gonna be like, "Hey, fuck you." But at the end of the day, it's, like I spray different. I learn at a different rate, like I'll learn one way or another. But
I will say the hardest part to do in what I do is allowing the criticism without being upset by it. Like
I think there's a point.
If you put anything out there on video that other people can see, they're going to criticize you. They're going to have an opinion. They're going to have their
just like
ideas.
me flipping off everybody in the beginning of my videos.
Right, which I almost had to post. My wife,
I get it.
My wife saw it. She's like, I thought that was you flipping people off. I'm like, yeah, I almost didn't post. I'm like, but he used the electron gun in it so much I had to put it up.
Oh yeah, I love it. Like I do a lot of I do some companies. I have a coffee roasting company that I do their machines for, and that's like the extent of production that I do. And it's like those are some of my favorite days to just load up the pot with black texture and just let that gun rip, because it's like if you got a good black texture in your gun that doesn't like to clump and cough, like it just sprays so nice out of the gun and it's just so smooth. And you can like, I was having a good old time because of those brackets in that video. Like I was like over a foot away and just would like hold for 2 seconds and it was like cover the part just instantly. And I'm like, holy cow, this gun would have been so much fun in production.
Yeah. No,
because you could be bouncing like 2 parts at once, Yeah,
that's the point of it. Like if they're working right, that's what they should do. And that's the thing, like the gun's half the price of all the other leading market guns, and it does just as good, if not better. And that's where I don't mean to put
They came out of nowhere,
into
dude.
it again. Well, yeah, they did. That's why I didn't trust.
They came out of nowhere, and it's just like how I want to know who helped develop it. I want to know who was like not that I care, but
I know.
But it's just wild to
you
think
can come
that
out to FabTech and meet him. That's how cool the company is. Their engineer is there at FabTech. So if you come to FabTech Chicago next year, he'll be there. Like,
also tell him thank you for making a gun that's not yellow. As dumb as that sounds.
there's only like one gun that's yellow.
2 of them.
What's the other one?
Wagner and Gema.
Oh, Wagner. I forget about Wagner because I don't see him as competition.
Yeah, you don't see them. I mean, they're pretty. A lot of people run them up here, but
Yeah.
you don't.
No, there's
a
ton of people that run them. We've replaced a lot of them. To be honest with you, electrons. There's like the weirdest market. It's serious. I'm not even kidding. I'm not making this up. We replaced the coil coat guns from Columbia Coatings.
Yeah,
because it's the guy stepping up to a professional gun.
Yep,
and we're replacing Gema. Like
that's insane.
I mean, we do a little bit of Nordson, Parker Ionics, and all that, but like if I had to tally them up, it's Gema and the Columbia Coating guns. It's insane, but
I've kind of been curious to try one of those. Like, I want to test one of those Parker Ionics guns.
Well, the problem with them is it's hard to get parts. It's hard to get service. Same thing with Nordson. And I sold Gema, and when I was the rep for my territory, I spent probably 80% of my time servicing old units, and we make no money on them. Like, they do not pay their reps at all to sell you used parts, to service your guns or any of that. And I saw that as a big red flag. I'm like, this is not good. Like, we're not paid to do this. I would be making way more money if I was selling this and that and the other. And so when I signed on with Electron, I was like, I want to be able to sell everything online so that my customer doesn't have to call me and hope I answer the phone. Right. Well, it's not even to get me off the line. It's just when I was buying parts, I want to go online. I want to buy a freaking insert, like a $10 part. Why should you have to call your distributor? Like, that's
well, it's insane. Like I've been in this industry for going on 16 years now. And it's out of that 16 years, I've seen one Wagner rep, never seen a Gema rep, never seen a Nordson rep. And then my buddy that I was telling you about from Cardinal, he's the paint rep for Cardinal for this area, but he also is like, they also sell Wagner. So like when he goes to all these shops that he's supplied Wagners to, he has every single part in the back of his car and, like this fancy toolbox kind of thing.
Right.
But that's the only time I ever seen it. And it was because he did it because he's seen a necessity, not necessarily that Wagner saw a necessity to have a rep on the floor. Yeah. And that's that's a sad part about this industry is like not having that support.
Well, so Wagner is trying to use those paint reps because my Sherwin rep.
Yeah, I was going to say that's who they bought in with Sherman real deep.
Yep. Sherwin sells them too. And I remember him coming to me like, well, if you want a Gema, you want a Gema. You're not going to care about our price point. He goes, and he didn't even push it. He's like, I don't really care what you buy.
I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm trying to sell you powder. But I'm not going to name names or companies, but I have a lot of my vendors who provide services to my shop who are out there pushing Electron because I'm not lying. It's a good gun. Like I don't fudge it up. And they're like, they go.
I'll be the first person to tell you.
Yeah, they go into the shops. They're like, the shops are complaining about this gun and this rep and that, and they're like, can you take care of them? Like, absolutely. And so we do. We go in there, we do a demo, and
there's a major necessity for everything that this gun's providing in this industry. The price
especially
point,
the customer service.
And and then like what we got 3 reps run like
we don't want to talk about the other reps.
But I'm just saying though, like it's at least there's there for whatever section we are in America, whether You go with so and
So
so or the other person.
me and my partner Ray, he has a distributorship down in South Africa, and he
Oh.
actually comes from Nordson. So he worked for Nordson for like 20 years in South Africa. And
Oh, so Nordson's from South Africa.
no,
Where are they from?
I don't know, but he had the distributor. He worked for a company that distributed.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part.
But he wanted to like buy into the company and be a part of the company, and they wouldn't take him. And he's like, fine. So he left and found Electron and teamed up with Electron. So down there in South Africa, it's not a very big territory, but I think they did like 3 complete lines last year. Like not just booths and ovens, they did like
No,
the
a
conveyor,
full-blown
the washer,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I teamed up with him because I know the manual system really well, but I don't know all the automated stuff that well with Electron. So I teamed up with him in June, and because now he lives in the US. So he's running the South Africa, but he's also in the US out of Indiana. And it's helped us get into big manufacturers. So we're now talking to the big players who are doing millions of dollars worth of coding a year. And we're talking about lines and automated booths and, just all the big stuff. And
Yeah, where the real money's at.
right. Technically, yeah. So
where they're dumping tons a month, not
right.
pounds.
But what's crazy, so we went and quoted an automated booth with a company who I think had a Gema, it might have been Nordson. And I think we were like $200,000 less on an automated booth with like, I think
What?
maybe
Where's
12,
the difference?
14, it's salespeople. It's so like Gema
Yeah, I could
has,
see that Gima's probably got a bunch more employees compared to,
so Gema has Gema corporate, but then they have Gema USA, and then they have all their distributors. So from Gema USA to the distributor in the USA to the salesperson. So when I was a salesperson, I made like, it was like $300-$400 a gun, like to go out and sell a gun. And I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. 3 hours away is Omaha. I remember driving there, taking a Gema gun, doing a demo, leaving the gun there, coming back to Des Moines, 3 hours, so that's 6. Going back out, picking up the demo gun, bringing it back. So now we're at 12 hours. They bought a gun, went back out, set up their gun, trained them on the gun, drove
for $300
for $300-$400. So, and that's what I made. My company made probably $1,000 or whatever, and then
Right.
Gema USA. So it all, in that case, trickles uphill, not downhill. But Electron we're not like that right now. I mean, we may have to get to that point, but if you buy from Electron right now, it is the best time to get in because it's going to be the cheapest cost ever.
Yeah.
Because we're just,
and it's only gonna progressively get better.
Right.
If it's this good already.
It's about brand awareness right now. So as we build, it will go on.
Once you mold, yeah.
So the entry level guys now are going to be like, we told you.
That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited for to see where it goes in the next 5 years, to see, what talent comes into the industry, and then, see where Electron goes in the 5 years that it's in the market, how much more people it's going to be able to bring in and
right.
mitigate, and that's where bad habits form, is running a gun that isn't you're trying to get it to do stuff for you that it's not, like you said, it's clumping, it's doing all this nasty stuff that you're trying to get it to do, but you get a real gun on you and it's, it might take some time to figure it out, but then it's that bearer of learning is much quicker and much less simpler to understand than it failing 90% of the time, or it's you just can't learn off something that's not doing something correctly. So then you're shaking, right. Or you're, that's where just bad habits come in.
Well, it's a big learning curve too. If you're coming from an entry level gun to a professional gun, it doesn't matter if it's our gun, Gema,
it's got to be, whatever. It's very overwhelming.
Well, there's a lot more settings, a lot more user interference where you can mess things up. And if you have no idea what does what,
Well, like let's say for instance, like me, I from the first shop that I worked at for 8 years. I ran a Versus Spray 2, and that's a knob turn gun. You know,
Yep.
like basically what Eastwood just rolled out. But you know, going from
have you used that gun?
not the one. So I got two of them. They sent me two of the proto,
Yeah.
and then the finished product showed up, and I went to set it up, and they fixed the air fitting to the back of the box. So like you can't unscrew it to put like your own air fitting on it.
So
like
have to change their
I'd have to go
fitting?
change my air fitting and stuff. So I haven't set it up. I'm gonna set it up and test it because I really want to see. Because like I was very, very, very adamant about like I love the fact that like that's the RC1 gun. That gun's really comfortable. It sprays halfway decent. But the first prototype that they sent, it was you could just control. It was like your powder and then your fluidizing air.
Yeah.
So like technically your third adjustment would be your inlet air into the machine. So it was like, oh my God, like I was like every day I was emailing him, you have to have supplemental air. We have to have supplemental air. Like we
Yeah.
cannot dial in the cloud. Like I will send you some videos and you will be like, oh my God, dude, like
I'm
coughing. I'm not joking. Like you could put 5 pounds in the pot and it would just throw it all at once.
yeah.
It was insane.
Sarcastically wondering why they never sent me one to try.
I think it was just me, Rose, Zach, and then I recommended one person, which I wish I wouldn't have never recommended him, but I'll keep that name out of it.
I know someone you didn't name who has one, so I'll leave that out.
And Scott. Scott was in that. I forgot about Scott. I don't know how I forget about Scott. He's too quiet sometimes.
He won't. He tries not to riffle anything up, which is fine. I'm shocked that one of the top, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but one of the
I think
top
he was-
YouTube channels does not get to test out Eastwood's newest gun.
I'll send you mine.
Do it. I mean, I sent you mine.
I'll do it. I got to try it first, and then I'll send it to you. And
I've
then
never understood like
we can do a whole podcast on how it works. So
I think the problem is I'm too honest, and I won't.
Just wait, because I'm not. I'll be nice and professional, but
I'll always be nice and professional. But like, and also, so like with Electron, when I told them because they were talking this thing up, I'm like, I go, if it sucks, I'm not. I won't. I literally told him this. I go, I won't post a thing because they sent it to me for free. So I don't want I don't want to bad.
I will say.
But I go, if it's good, I'll do a good review on it. I'm like, if it sucks, I won't post a thing. And that was
I will say for what I mean, once I got the prototype hooked up, I did like a old KX80 frame with RAL 6018. And it sprayed really, really good with that RAL. And I was honestly impressed. And then I'm like, man, if it just had, supplemental air and maybe a pump, like this thing would be awesome for like your glorified, like your buddy that's a really good car builder or something like that just does everything at home. Like that would be perfect for that guy if he's, wanting to do little tiny nuts and screws or like some little stuff. Like it would be awesome for the at-home dude. Like better than what's out there now, I would say.
Right.
And that's what I was for. And that's what I want to help him do is like, create something. But then it's like me and everybody else can put in all this info and then to see what came back. And it was like, yeah, my input was put into it, but like I didn't see the major things that Zach and Roe had said that came back, and within the box, there's a letter that said there's going to be a pump coming out. I think here in the next couple months for it. So we'll see that, we'll see.
How long ago did you get the last updated one?
It was like a couple months ago. I'm pretty sure they're not happy with me.
I'm rooting for them, to be honest with you, because
I am too. Like I think it's rad.
There needs to be an entry level affordable.
I tell you right now, it'll blow anything that Cool Coat's putting out.
I would be okay with that. They're selling
It's-
Electron now, but it's not from. They're a sub distributor over a competition.
Yeah.
So
And that's-
if Electron or not Electron, Eastwood, if you're listening to this podcast, reach out to me, CTSA. Let's work together. Let's get this gun figured out.
Oh yeah, I'm honestly impressed with what they. I mean, it was maybe like what 4 or 5 months. Like obviously, it was all in the works. Like
Yeah, no,
You
I've
know-
seen the progression, and unfortunately for them, I know all of you guys, so I hear about it all in the back
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
But I was super excited about it. Honestly, I just
Dave-
bought.
Dave
Literally
from
just
Eastwood
bought
is the nicest dude.
Yeah,
Super nice guy.
yeah. I'm rooting for him. I just literally bought a Eastwood. What is it, 250 or whatever it is, a dual voltage.
I think
Gun.
those guns are pretty rad. That's like
I just
basically a
bought one
GEMA. That's a
'cause
GEMA
mine-
gun handle.
Right.
Like,
My old one. No, this is a little dual voltage gun.
oh, okay.
I just bought one because I'm going to do a little test video, and I have the school community. So I'm
Mhm.
not trying to step on Roro's shit, but I'm trying to get more people into that so we can get more educated and all that. But we're going to do like,
I mean, they're really-
giveaways.
There needs. That's the difference, though, dude. Like, what you provide is like the people that don't know nothing and they come to you, and then
Right.
think about how many people do you know that you've said something so dumb and minute to them, and it just like, oh my god, the light bulb went off for them.
Right.
Or like they don't know anything, and then you're like, hey, try this, this, and this, and then they're like, oh my god, thank you. So how many people in your pocket do you know that you've helped that have now they're pretty successful painters? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've helped a guy out of Australia. It was TP Performance Coatings out of Ballarat, Australia, and he reached out to me and would just, ask me questions and stuff, and I'd help him just over voice chat. And dude, that guy puts out just as clean as work as I do.
just practice.
Yeah. And then just having somebody good in your corner that can help you, like, feed you the information in layman terms, just explain it in a different way. And that's
I'd
what you
say-
do. Like, I've taken stuff that you've done that I've watched, and I'm like, damn, I'm going to try that now,
Yeah.
we're also one-track mind, you
Right.
got to take it from here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, it gives you different opinion. The biggest thing that I get a lot that actually humbles the shit out of me is like, there's people that'll be like, I started my powder coating shop because of your videos. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it like literally knocks me off my chair every time. I'm like, gee, don't put that on me. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's like, God damn, like that's a lot of pressure. Like, I hope to God you're paying the bills and taking care of your family.
People are like, oh, I want to try powder coating. And I'm like,
It's not easy.
I'm not going to tell you no, but at
Right.
the end of the day, be prepared to rip your hair out for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's not easy work. It's tough. So
To
it's
the
you
bone.
definitely, I'm sure with your following and all that, you've had to grow some thick skin. Do you want to share any mean comments or anything you've gotten in the past?
To be honest with you, man, I'm honestly pretty blessed when it comes to that. Like, I've had some, like, it's probably bots or something that have said stuff. Like when I was doing live streams quite a bit way back in the day,
What
There
were
would
you
be
doing
some-
them on?
Instagram. But it's like when you have people that you have a following that's from all over the world, you get people from anywhere and everywhere, and they'll just say like stupid shit that you're like, okay, like that's not real, but whatever,
Right.
But I mean, when you think about real life comments, real people we interact with, like I've never ever that I can remember have had bad comments.
That's good.
Luckily, maybe I'll
comment.
get to a point where people start hating me, and I mean that's
I don't think anyone hates
I get
me.
that-
I just think they know better and they have to comment, so they make.
oh yeah, that's anything and
Which
everything. I mean, I'll do
maybe
it
they
too.
do
Like
know better. Yeah.
me and you are probably victims, or not victims. We're probably the bullies ourselves too, because like we know what we know, and then
Right.
we'll say what we know, or not that I'm trying to be an asshole or whatnot, but I mean,
Right. No,
sometimes
that's a
I'm
good. That's a good
sometimes I'm a
viewpoint.
jerk, but it's I'm a small fish, dude. I'm from a little town in Idaho. Like, for me to make it to where I'm at nowadays, like, I tell everybody, like, dude, I've got to live my dreams in a matter of a couple years, and then now I'm at this point, like, okay, what do I do now? Like, what
Right.
what am I going to do now in business that's going to keep me, inspired and enthralled and loving what I'm doing and keep me creative and going? Because that's my real main focus and real main goal in powder coating, is to make, like it says on my Instagram, I'm changing the way that everybody looks at powder coating. Like, I did lace work, I've done stencil work, like, and like that comes from my brother being an airbrusher. Like, oh, you should see if you can try this with powder,
Right.
like.
It makes you creative. Yeah.
And so that's like where I'm at, is like, I want to push that boundary of custom coating and like take it to places that never been for just finish results, not like shows or like in people's hands per se, but just being able to bend the rules and like, no, this is still stable and it's still gonna work just as good as me just spraying gloss black and clear or something, like.
Right.
And that's where I'm at.
You're doing what I like to call the fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing God's work.
So I admire people like you who can make a really nice product, good living, pay your bills, and get, like, it's so tough for a custom coder to have the business, you know what I mean, to like keep it up. So it's one thing to do something cool and hit off once or twice, but talking with like you and Roro, like, he won't do any production work. Like, it's unbelievable.
His building, his setup's not built for
Right.
it, and I mean,
neither
is
was
mine.
but I made it work because I was like, I don't see
I mean,
any money
the
here.
only luck I have with the coffee crafter like stuff is they just spray over their galvanized sheeting.
Yep.
So it's like,
Yep.
hang it up, blow it off, wipe it down if it's got to be wiped down.
Right.
And
Yep.
if you're really worried about it, run it in the oven for a little bit, pull it out, and start going.
So is your main like process blasting coating? Like, do you do any
So
other pre-work?
I would say like my preferred way to do it is like anything obviously that comes in the door. If it's not clean, it gets washed. We use some I can't remember the brand. It's like really pink and it comes in a big tote. It's really expensive. And then I
Just
pump it up and like,
degreaser?
it's a really good degreaser, and I'll spray that on, let it sit, and then I'll come back with, like, what is that? You can't drink that kind of water. It's got no minerals in it.
Oh, iodine, not iodized.
It's
I know what you're
why am I
talking about.
blanking this? I go to like Ace and buy gallons of it.
Oh. In the gallons?
Yeah, I buy gallons of it and just pour it in like a separate spray bottle kind of thing to rinse
Like
my.
deionized?
Yeah, or just like, you can't drink the water because it's got no
Right.
minerals in it, right?
You can.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it. But like, I'll
because you're
wash
not gonna,
that off.
you don't want it to like flash rust because of the minerals.
Well, if you think about it, like you spraying off stuff with like,
I've never
hose water.
So I've looked at putting in like deionizing systems in my shop, but I've never thought to buy it by the gallon and spray it on parts. So you might actually be sharing that with a bunch of people right now who have never thought about that ever before.
Oh, it's a big thing. So it's like, if a lot of it is just to get the grease off and stuff, and then like from there, then gets it all off, makes it super clean, and then from there I'll go straight into outgas, like let it just roast for like, I'll set the oven at like 450, and then if I got a lot of stuff and if it's thick, I'll just let it go for an hour, let it cool down, and then from there I like, big shout out to High Temp Masking. They keep me really stocked on tape. So like from that point, I'll tape stuff up that needs to be taped with my powder tape, and then go straight into blast at that point. And then my blast material, I'm using 80 grit or 100 grit garnet. I really like garnet. I don't know. I've never used aluminum oxide. I kind of want to try it and see if there's a benefit to go to it. But being that I'm in a cabinet, I prefer garnet because it allows like the light in the cabinet to stay brighter because it's not a dark media. Yeah, it's not a dark looking media. So, the most light I can get out of that little hellhole of a box, I'm gonna. And
It really
Yeah.
is a hellhole of a box.
oh my God, that's where all my mental health issues go.
Blasting is fun for 30 seconds.
I don't mind it. It's just like honestly, I don't mind it if it's running right and my lens is
Right.
clear
And nothing.
and
Yeah.
and it's like I'm not trying to peel powder off
That's
because
literally what
I don't
just
run
said.
chemical
For
strip.
30 seconds, it's fun.
Yeah. And then you're going like, sweet, I just wasted my whole life today. Like one time, I think it was I did a set of 13 spoke Harley mags to trade for this little piece of shit van from one of my buddies. And I two-toned them. And it took me 16 hours just in blast to get the old coating off. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and then I two-toned them. So it was like, I mean, the amount of time that I had into it, just into 2 Harley wheels was like over $2,000 in time.
This
And
is
I'm like,
why we
this-
do production
isn't-
work.
This isn't worth this piece of shit van that I got.
No.
But I mean, it's all good fun. Like I just look at it in the sense like I'll do, I don't know, I kind of shoot myself in the foot. I do a lot of stuff for my buddies or some, people that I think that, that want to be sponsored, I'll do stuff for, and it might shoot me in the foot. But I look at it in the sense of like, I just try to put good energy out there and good karma out there that it'll come back to me in business. And that's just kind of the way I like to roll. Like there's nothing better to me than like this kid, he came in the other day with this beat up little Razor dirt bike frame that he's like rebuilding, and he wanted it white, and he's like, doesn't want to pay for it. And I was like, all right, well then get in here and blast it. And he blasted it for like
Right.
10-15 minutes and then sat there and bullshitted with me. And then I ended up giving the kid a ride home. But I came in that Monday and I sprayed it like pearl white, put purple flake in it, and cleared it with acrylic clear. Like
You gave him a $2,000 paint job.
yeah, on a
And a ride
Walmart bike,
home.
on a fucking Walmart bike. And my buddy was like, did you seriously just do that for that kid? He was kind of a jerk. And I was like, I mean, at the end of the day, like how many kids do we know today that are out there trying to go
Into
riding with their
this.
buddies and like
Yeah.
out playing outside still? Like this summer, he just rode his bike to my shop with a bicycle frame in his backpack to drop off for me. So I'm like, that's where I'm at. Like to see
No,
people
that's-
smile and see
Yeah,
people
that's
like,
pretty cool.
feel good or like, get something that it makes that thing theirs. Like
Yeah.
that's what it's all for me.
Yeah. Nope. I think that's awesome. I think a lot of us who start off small doing our own little bikes or car parts or whatever it is would definitely appreciate a guy like you doing that kind of thing. Because-
And that's like in my town, it was, like I would say Spokane, like I'm right next to Spokane, Washington. So between Spokane and where I'm at here in Idaho, I would say there's probably more powder shops here in this area than there is per capita. And they're all production shops. So like I looked at it like, man, I have nobody around here can do what I do, two-toning,
Yeah.
stencil
You're
work, any of that
specialized. Yeah.
fade stuff, like any of that stuff, nobody can do. And I mean, there's starting to be a market for it now. And it's like, being able to have a shop for these people to go to with like, their mom and pop stuff, their little tiny little trinkets, like, they go to a production shop, and I used to watch that stuff sit in an office for months before I could get to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah, because you
that
work for the
that
big
little
guy.
old lady, that little old lady wants her lamp done, man. Like I love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Have you? And I'm not trying to like make this way longer than this. Is probably the.
Oh, you're
longest
good. We can go.
podcast
We can
we've
go
already
as long as we want. We'll get all
Right.
the views.
With that being said, so like I know in my shop now, when someone brings me a one-off item and we're already booked out, it gets pushed out. Have you done any or have you made any connections with some of those bigger industrial shops and been like, hey, if you guys get this work in, I can help you?
Yeah,
out,
so-
type of thing?
The biggest shop in my area is the one that I left to start my own business. And the owner that was there when I went in there, that's like a whole nother podcast talking about that experience. and
Well,
that,
I'll have you on again.
that time in my life. That's a good story and stuff, and kind of, like, I don't know, good like uplifting story for like coding applicators out there in shops that hate their lives. Like I could have a good spiel about positivity and like learning how to love your trade kind of thing.
Yep.
Because I was that painter one time in my life where I hated my life, you know, going and painting all day. But
I might have to have you come talk to all my employees, actually.
it's more, you know, work ethic, etiquette, you know, like come in and be happy and like yell and holler and say funny shit, you know, like that's all it's about, you know. But I mean, where was I at before I went down that rabbit hole? Shit, I forgot where I was going. Brain fart.
I just, all I can think about is now like my employees who are upset that they have to paint all day.
No,
And
it's
I'm like
it's
you said that, and I'm like, oh man, I have 2 of those right
No,
now.
it's-
who just like
it's
try
a
to avoid
big
the
thing,
paint
dude.
room.
And well, it's the paint room is where you want to be if you're in a powder shop, dude.
Well,
That's exactly where you want to be.
I pay big bonuses when they make shit right. Like that's the one thing I've found to keep employees. If you're painting all day in my room, my little tiny room, we have up to a $50 day bonus if you're not messing stuff up. So that's like your encouragement to stay focused, stay off your phone, and all
I mean, it's
that.
easy. Like this, in my opinion, like especially in your kind of world where you're spraying one color or you're spraying texture. Like I've seen it. I've seen the pallets and pallets of stuff you guys are pumping out, and I've watched it blow up. And like even just in the last 2 years, from like watching, or the last 3 years, from you going from wheel repair into powder, more and more and more. And then he's got a new gun. He's got a new gun. He's got a bigger booth. Oh shit! Now he's got a line system. I'm like,
I do not
oh
have a
my-
bigger booth. I do not have a bigger booth. That's a lie. I don't know who's.
But I
feeding
mean,
that
from
crap.
what I see, or like, I'm like, oh, it looks different, you know. I'm like,
right. The
then I
majority
see
of people I talk to, I'd rather have their booth than what I have.
I built my booth. My
I
booth's
did too.
built by hand.
Yep. Yours
That's
is
all.
brighter and cleaner than mine is.
That's just metal studs, and then we have a thing called Sun Supply, which they do like, you know, they supply like vinyl, and all that is signboard. So it's like that super thin aluminum white sheeting, and then it's got like the plastic in the middle.
Yep, I know exactly.
Those are only like $70 a sheet, or like 50 or $30 a sheet, you know. And I was like,
fill it up real nice.
and they're like 8x4 or something like that. Right. So they're like, it was perfect. I did 8x8x8, and my buddy was an HVAC guy, came in, and he like stole me like a scroll fan and shit, and like put that thing in there, and we had that thing built in like yeah. He's like, I got 2 of them for you. I'm like, I think we only need 1. But yeah, we built that, and then that's kind of where I'm at. Like, just stuff changes and molds, and that's I would say I've seen with a lot of other people. I've kind of stayed stagnant in what I'm doing and like focusing on the finish work instead of like, okay, what's next? What's there? I absolutely despise like chasing work because of how much energy we put in out on the internet and like marketing and you know, selling yourself to get work. It's just like, I mean, what else could I do, kind of thing. So like I'm a firm believer, like the work's gonna come at the right time that it's supposed to come. So just like anything else in life.
I love the custom stuff. That's where like if I'm happy, I'm doing custom stuff like you guys are doing, but I had to go manufacturing when it presented itself because there's so much money in it. And it's like,
that, and it's far less, I mean, it's stressful, but it's far less stressful in the sense of like, if you get somebody in there like yourself and you got to spray texture black all day, that's a good days of work. You go home, you made a good, decent, you know, like income to the shop. And then you're going to go home, you're going to sleep good. You feel good about yourself. You're gonna eat your dinner, go to bed, wake up the next day, and then, you know, whatever's next, you know, like I would say the only tiring thing about it is it does get exhausting and then it feels like it never ends.
There's a lot to that. So when you work alone and you're the only deciding factor of what happens, if it's good, if it's bad, if you messed up and all that, it's all on you. When you have employees, they mess up, it's a whole different world. So it's a whole balance between like how do I make sure that they learn from the mistake, but don't think that I hate them and want them to die? Like, everyone is so emotional nowadays. Like, and I'm not. I'm like a very blunt. I don't hold back.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
very.
I'm
Have you
see. I'm
noticed?
like internet. I'm internet persona right now, and I'm a little blunt, but and a little.
Right.
I mean, I'm always blunt and straightforward, but
I do not. I do not hide feelings at all.
oh,
Like, if
dude,
I'm mad, I'm
the
mad.
things I've been yelled and called
Ugh,
at being an
right.
applicator, pretty wild. But you know,
I don't.
I've
I
and
typically
like you
don't
don't
get
come
mad
off as
unless it's like the
yeah.
second or third time or fourth. But
Well,
it's like
then you
I've
have to,
already
dude. How are they
right.
supposed to
But
learn?
then they're still so upset with me, and I'm like, I cannot like just sugarcoat this anymore and pretend like it doesn't matter. And that's
I think it's
actually
just like anything in life, though. Like if you want to quit smoking cigarettes, or you want to be good on a dirt bike, or you want to have a Mercedes Benz in your driveway, you're going to do what it takes to get that. Or if you want to be a good painter, whatever it is, like you're going to do whatever it takes to understand and get good at it, to like because you love it. Like if you want to be a painter, you're going to be in that paint booth because you want to be, not
I
because you
can
have to be.
promise you I've never hired a person that wants to be a good painter.
Well, then you got to look for that dude, because
Well,
that dude, if you find a dude that wants to be a good painter, that I don't know why, dude. For some reason, I like to paint. I don't know. The way I look at it is I chose the easy way out as a high school dropout. I chose to color for a living. Like I'm just still in art class coloring for a
right.
living.
But you work for yourself. If you had to work for someone else, things would be totally different.
I don't know, dude, because at this point, it's, you know, I'm 5 years in and it's like, I have good time. Like I have good days in business. Don't get me wrong, but like I've been dead slow since July, and I'm freaking
Right.
the fuck out. And that's
Yeah.
the scary part. And like, don't get me
Well,
wrong. Like I wish someday I could make enough to bring an employee in, or bring one other person in, so I could teach him how to prep awesome. And then once he's like prepping and taping like
the minute
amazing,
they can do that, they leave.
yeah. Well, I get it, but it's,
That's the
you know,
thing with employees. So like I love this because I resonate with it so much because I
I'm
was
so
in your
scared to
I was
like
in
to
right.
teach somebody.
I've been in your position where it's like, hey, I know all this. Now I want to teach someone and help them grow and bring them up and do it. But like, there's no loyalty. They're in and
Nope.
out in a minute. And now, so my biggest thing is like, okay, I have business, I have employees, and now I need to make sure that as the business owner, I keep work coming in because these people rely on this income
That's
for their
the
families.
biggest
Yeah.
biggest stress that I have, is it's like, man, if I'm like, my whole life I've never ever really ever been late on bills. Like that's one thing I
Right.
pride myself in, is like being on time with bills. I'm not the best with money. I mean, you could look at my Suron and you could say that, but it just boils down to like, I would rather just be a lot more aware of like getting to a point like, dude, I don't know how to do taxes. Like I do all that, like all that's sent off to a tax person. I got a book
That's-
lady. Like, you know, I
that's
have
what
the
they're
right
for.
people in, yeah, I have the
would,
right people in
strongly
my
encourage you
corner.
to keep doing that.
So it's like, and that's, you know, I had to deal with those. I had, you know, me and my daughter's mom split, and she was, when we first started, she was with me for like the first couple years of my business, doing my books and my, all that stuff, and like all the office stuff. So it was awesome. And then it was even great because like I could teach her one thing and she just boom, like could do it. And I'm like, holy shit, like that was awesome. And then when we split up and stuff, it was like, oh shit, like I got to figure out how to do QuickBooks. I got to do all this stuff. And then it was like, I'm already of an overwhelmed kind of person.
Right.
So I was like, you know, running a business is stressful, but then like that's what I'm super scared about, is it's like, man, if I'm, you know, struggling and I can, you know, barely make ends meet, how am I supposed to pay somebody else's mortgage or rent and phone bill and car payment for a month? You know, like, yeah, maybe once I get to a point where I am making that kind of money, I will bring somebody in. But then again, like maybe not. I'll just stay kind of small, I'll go bigger oven wise so I can compete like with, you know, frames and bigger stuff and bumpers and stuff like that, and stay out of like the handrail and stuff
Right.
world because I've did
That's
too much of that
that's
stuff in my life
literally
already.
why I went into the manufacturing world and allowed that to come in and take over the business. Is like when you do custom work, you are relying on a different person every day to bring you work.
Yep.
If you can sign up XYZ factory, 2, 3, 4 of them, that's reoccurring work constantly. And that's where, like, looking at guys like you that like rely on that custom work, especially when times are tough and money's tight.
Well,
That's a-
right now it's like
it's a-
nobody's
right.
spending money on
No.
everybody's going to spend money on necessities, not what do they call that? I sell a
Luxuries.
luxury. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
you're
that's, you know, it's-
definitely a luxury.
Yeah,
Stop
and
making
that's
your stuff so nice. Just make it plain and boring.
yeah, but then I can't
This
compete
isn't a
with the
luxury.
dude down
We're just preventing rust now.
the dudes that are down the street that are charging $2 for a part. I don't
Right.
get it. That's the shit that lights me
Hey,
up, man.
my cheapest part we paint is $1.81.
That's crazy. The cheapest I'll go
But
is
we did
$8.
like 600 of them today.
The lowest I'll go is $8 a piece.
Right.
Like
I have a little
especially
different
even on
system.
parts like this big.
Yeah. Ours
Like,
are
no
the
way.
smallest piece you can bring me. It's $1.81.
Yeah, like my shop minimum though.
But
It's
I
like
can
somebody
hang
brings.
I can hang 1,000 of them and do them in an hour.
Yeah, yeah. But see, and that's another thing that people don't get though. Is like that's where I'm hesitant. Like I'll take in like if you want to bring me production work like this coffee crafter job, it all fits in my oven. It's all, it's either textured black or it's either charcoal gray or what else have I done? Charcoal gray, texture black, and then I got some little tiny red pieces to do.
Yep.
But it's like what people don't understand is it's not only okay that you're gonna charge them $1 a part, but then like hooks cost money, and
Yep.
I'm a freak. Like I'll never respray, even if it's like you still see metal through it. Like I'm grabbing a fresh
You
hook.
only spray one time per hook.
Well, they get stripped after that.
Oh,
I have a little tote that I like after
Yeah.
every day, everything gets sprayed. It goes in the strip tote. And the next morning I come in, I strip them off. Like I'm firm believer. That's why I can get such a smooth finish. It's because
I don't doubt you.
there's never any point. And like, I'm even going even further where I'm going to go get a fatter ground rod and I'm going to get a super huge copper wire and run it to my hang bar. It's already grounded, but I want to try to get like the best ground I can get. Cause I want to see.
Here, I want you to do a test for me. Okay.
Okay.
And do whatever you want to do, but take some random scrap parts, hang them on your cart, roll them into your booth. Do not ground anything.
I'll even unhook the ground from the gun and I'll still get coverage.
Well, the ground of the gun does not add ground to the part.
No, you never ground the gun to the part.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
a great way to blow. That's a great way to blow up your box.
Well, you want to ground the gun. So
Yeah,
that you don't
separately
blow
from
up
the part
gun.
you're hanging.
Right.
Yeah.
You put the ground on the booth or on the ground.
My ground rod that grounds my guns is on the end of my building outside, and then my booth ground is coming from this door
Everyone
in.
is so obsessed with ground, and I'm gonna do like a whole series where I paint 10,000 parts without a ground.
Yeah, I
just
do it
to
all the time.
prove you don't have to have.
Have
it.
you watched me hanging? Like I hold and hang, I spray while I'm holding the part all the time.
I can only watch so many of your videos. Come
But I really want to try, because it's like these guns come from the manufacturer set at like 100, and then we got like the supercharged setting. We can go 120.
They're
like
industrial settings.
Nah, I didn't.
No,
even in an industrial, I never ran mine at 100.
100 kV.
Never. My highest kV setting that I loved the most was 85, 65.
If you're running flat parts and you can't spray them at 100, or on electron guns, 120, then you don't know what you're doing. Like that's the most transfer efficiency possible.
Oh yeah, that's 100% a transfer transfer efficiency. But that's what
Right.
I'm saying. Where like for me, what I would say
Everything
is
was
like,
bent or
yeah, like, and then who's to say like my ground's right or not? Like that's when you'll get popping and stuff. Is I feel like you'll start to see and hear electricity once you get past 60, 65. But
no.
I don't know, might be different for in different areas. You know what I mean?
Now, if you try it with your stuff, because if you're cleaning your hooks like you say you are, you're gonna have no problem. Like I think you could probably do
Lately-
Faraday
Lately, I've been
with
running
your
like
clean
so with
hooks.
that texture black. I was running at 120, and then I put my microamps down to 50.
Yeah.
Just to be, like to cut it in half. And that's what like I kind of always I
What
felt
did-
like
What did your
I
KV
felt like-
do? Did you look at all?
no, because it's behind me.
Oh, okay.
Because I have it on. I just went and bought one of those US General rolling carts from Harbor Freight and put it
I
on
like
top
to
of
like
that.
look at the controller
Yeah.
and see
To
what
see what
it's
it's
showing.
reading. Yeah, what it's
'cause
actually
kind of-
discharging.
it's like how so if you leave your say you were at 50 UA and 100 kV or 120, what was it pulling the kV down to? Because it's automated.
Right.
So it'd
Yeah.
be
And
interesting
a
to
lot of it
know
has to a lot of it has to deal with like how close and how
your
far you're
distance,
going.
right?
Yeah.
But it's also how much of that energy is picked up by those paint particles
Mhm.
and how much is transferring into the part. So
That's
it'd be
what I've always like. I've always had like a prop. Like I want to be able to run my gun maxed out. Like when you see the dudes running at 100 and it looks like it's atomized and spraying like a liquid gun, like there's barely nothing coming out of it. And then you're literally watching 100% transfer efficiency happen. Like boom.
that's not a thing.
Like that's, well, obviously it's
I know
not a
what
thing,
you're saying. I
but
know
you
what
get
you're
what I mean. Like what
Yeah.
we would consider 100% of
Like,
transfer
yeah.
efficiency. Like that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to run at that setting, like I want to be
but
able to,
with what you're
just-
doing, that's almost impossible
right.
because your parts are so random.
That, or it's a wheel or whatever,
That's what I mean. Like you aren't spraying a flat panel, so
No,
for you to set one setting and just go to town, it's almost impossible with all the
That's
fit
usually-
base, and if you're doing steel, aluminum, magnesium,
like even when I'm doing like stencil work, everybody's like, what are you doing with settings when you're recoating and stuff? And I'm like, dude, it's set at this and I never change it.
they're
From
overthinking
each
it.
each
Yeah.
coat, like each coat, like, and that's what
Yeah.
people are like, oh, you got to reset it when you go to recoat. And I'm like, if your gun, like if you didn't overcharge the part on that first coat,
Yeah.
you should be good for another 6 if you
Right.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Like that would be
maybe
that'd be
back-
a fun video.
maybe back up a little. We've done tests where we can put like 14 to 20 mils on without any back ionization. It's all about your technique.
Distance. Yeah.
Your ground and your distance. Yeah. I mean,
Well then, fuck,
People-
dude, I did a
people
huge weld.
overthink all of that shit, but they're also going in the forums like, oh, why did this happen? Oh, you're this, you were this, you were this.
And then you get
And they-
60 different answers.
Right. But they take one of those answers and they're like, oh, this is the Bible. This is what it, and that's like literally why I started my channel. Back in the day, everyone would wipe their parts down with, I'm going to rip one off right here because I got it on my desk. Freaking paper towel,
Don't get me started about that
Yeah.
shit, dude.
lacquer, and they're like, I have fibers in my paint.
Oh, dude, I used
Why?
to spray at the old shop that I was in. I used to spray, you know what a Kuma stove is?
Mm-mm.
The brand Kuma stoves, they're everywhere. We used to spray all that high temp hammered Sherman-Williams on it.
Like they're stoves.
Yeah, it's a stove. It come in all galvanized and stuff. It's like a pellet stove.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they would come in all, raw galvanized kind of sheeting and stuff. And then I'd have like, 10 or 15 on one of my racks. And I'd go in and I'd spray them all. And I'm like, they're wiping them down with something. And this kid's wiping it down with a microfiber cloth. And I just went off. Like I went off. And I'm like, who told you to do this? And the owner's like, oh, it's fine. It'll just burn off when we outgas it. And I go, 400 degrees ain't going to burn off that fiber, dude. I go, you got to go get me a torch to burn all that stuff
Yeah.
off.
I've been in
Like-
those shops too, where
And he's
they're
like, No,
Their
the
weed,
powder
their
will
weed,
cover it.
their weed
The powder will
torch and
cover it.
Yeah.
No, it won't. Watch, you're gonna have a bunch of yellow hairs on every corner and every fucking sharp edge.
Yeah, it's the best thing about the powder coating community is there's so many opinions on how you can do the same job.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, before I sold equipment, my eyes were like very narrow, and I'm like, oh, there's one way to do this, and that's the right way. And then I go into all these shops, and I'm like, wow, they
What are
don't do
you
it.
doing?
Well, like, so now I get a lot of crap. So we do a lot of hot rolled steel for a company, and so we give all of our customer options. We can blast it, we can degrease phosphate it. You know, what do you want? Like, what dollar amount do you want to spend? And
Yep.
and we tell them what the corrosion will be on it, like what the pill level will be on it, like the impact resistance, all that kind of stuff. And we let them pick their dollar amount. It is what it is. Now, if you bring in hot rolled steel with mill scale on it, we're not going to guarantee shit. Like, so we'll degrease it, we'll phosphate it, we'll wash it, we'll dry it, we'll coat it. I'm not going to guarantee.
You chose that option.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm so afraid to upload videos. And now we have our video guy, and he just records.
There's
Dude,
no
he
difference
records-
between me spraying that with no prep.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? That's what the customer told me to do.
Right.
That's the prep they wanted me to do.
Right.
I used to do stuff for Revamp, and Revamp is like probably one of the biggest companies that goes in and restores skyscrapers. So we were doing all these crazy fucking cutout panels for some thing that was going on in Seattle. They were the pickiest. It was the pickiest spec sheet I had ever fucking had to try to spray on my entire life. So they wanted 3 mils of fucking zinc rich primer, which I'm like, what? And then they wanted another 3 mils of top coat. And I'm thinking,
well, that's a solid set.
Whoever told you that you needed that much primer, like, so it made me, as the applicator, the only applicator in that building that had to spray it, like, you know, they wanted at this exact millage, and then like, I have a
typically put a zinc rich on at? How many mils?
I would like it to be at like a mill and a half, and then
for you guys who are listening, that's very normal.
It doesn't need, like, at the end of the day, especially when we're spraying
putting
wheels,
on a light coat of primer to protect against corrosion. You don't.
And then everybody's wondering why they spray over zinc rich and it looks orange peely.
Right. Oops,
you know, and then 90% of people don't understand how to flash zinc. Like, the second that zinc goes wet, you pull that out. Yeah. Because if it goes past, if you go a little bit past, that shit ain't sticking to that zinc. No way.
You need the cross bonding he's talking about with the top layer. Yep.
So it's, I mean, and then it's like, at the end of the day, in my opinion, like, if you've done impact tests, like, let's say we painted a plate at 10 to 15 mils, you know, like, oh, they want it thick, pour it on there. And then you take a spray out card that's at 4.5, 5, or let's say even 3.5, you know, like a mil to 2.5 mil, you know, a mil of primer and a 2.5 mils or 2 mils of, you know, top coat. And then you go impact resist, you know, go impact test the thinner one compared to the thicker one. The thinner one's going to be stronger than the thicker one. The thicker one's going to crack way faster. It's going to shatter because there's just so much product there.
Right.
And that's, you know, we see that on wheels a lot. Like, you know, you'll get in a lot of wheels, and I'm like, with like somebody was to bring me in a set of aluminum wheels off of Jeep Cherokee or whatever, and they want them just satin black. Like, my favorite thing to do with satin black, heat that stuff up to 400 degrees, pull it out, turn your power up, turn your powder down, turn your air up a little bit, get it to atomize like a paint gun, throw a nice dusting on it hot, let it cool down, check it with the temp gun. Once it's at like 150 or lower, recoat it, and then go in for full cure, and then mill check it. And you'll be at like 3.5, 4 maybe. And it's like, you've just given yourself a base to go over that's not super thick, not super thin, but then you're not going to worry about light
You
spots
still
and
have
Faraday areas.
outgassing and all that.
And then like it's a satin, so like BK08 from Cardinal is satin black, and that black is formulated to be sprayed hot, and it's also like formulated to be like a primer in itself. So like if
I've
you're spraying
actually, so we do a ton of BK11.
BK11's good.
That shit
BK
lays out so nice.
BK08 is my
it's an,
favorite satin
it's
black.
an epoxy, so you can't use it outdoors.
Yeah.
I assume the BK08, which I've never sprayed, is
No,
like
it's
a
polyester.
Yeah. That's I might have to give them a try, which my IFS guy is not gonna like to hear.
Dude,
So
I don't know, man.
we spray a
IFS
lot.
is really good. I would
Yeah,
say
they
that's
are.
probably some of the best powder I've ever sprayed in my life,
Yeah,
and I've only got to spray it a few times.
We spray
Super nice.
thousands of pounds a month.
Their
of
primer,
their
I would
scent.
say their primer is my favorite primer I've
Is
ever
it?
used out of anybody. Sherwin-Williams is the worst. That shit, I fucking hate their Zinc Rich primer. Like it's good, it's
Nope.
not bad, but it does. Like I fought it so much to get it to just stick.
Really?
And then, yeah, and then like IFS was like, oh my god, this is like spraying like Sherwin-Williams or Tiger Drylax colors, you know?
Yeah. See, I used to be a Tyler Drylac guy for like my Gloss Blacks, but then they reached out to me to like sponsor a video, and they wanted to give me like a free banner or something. I'm like, no, I'm good. And then they started supporting some other guy.
Yeah, I know.
You guys could
Yeah.
figure it out. And I was just like, yeah, I want nothing to do with them anymore. If they're going to sponsor him, I don't even want to be associated with their powder. So I stopped buying it unless I had to.
We won't
They're
talk
not a
about
bad
the old
powder, though. They're not a bad powder.
I wouldn't say no, I would say they're some of the greatest powder, but I don't, for
they're
me it's like
expensive, but they're not.
that's why I won't buy it. Like I'm not paying that much for a 5-pound box of candy, dude. Like
I think somebody
sorry.
wants some attention there.
Yeah, she says it's past her dinner time.
I think
Which
we're
is
pushing 2
all the
hours,
time.
man. This is the
Heck yeah.
longest interview I've ever done. So I'm going to let you go.
Right on.
We'll definitely have you on again, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. And what's your favorite powder coating gun again? I just couldn't remember.
It's the Electron, and her name, I named mine, and her name's Electra the Electron. So
I'm excited to see some videos about that. Like, I think that'll go big when you start naming your powder coating gun like people do cars.
Yeah. So in the next, I haven't got to do stencil work with it yet, at all. So I'm gonna try to do some stuff this week with it. Get her thrown through some paces that these guns haven't seen yet. So I'm excited to
do new stuff. I'm excited. I appreciate you joining me, man. Speaking for myself, I love watching your work and what you're coming up with. The patina work recently is really nice.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Keep tagging us in your videos. And again, thanks for coming on. Email me all your social media stuff. We'll put it in the video and all that.
Okay.
That's
also, like, thanks for having me. You've also been like you've been a big kind of thing in my process of my career too, watching your videos, like everybody's videos that I've watched. You've been a big inspiration to me in several different ways. And I'm super honored to like team up with you and like get to be friends with you. And it's cool. Like I was like, shit, one day I'm going to get an interview with him. It's going to be cool.
I waited way too long. I should have had you on longer. We took a long break from interviews, but
it all comes in at the right time, man.
I don't think this is our last one because I enjoyed our conversation. So
yeah, we'll have to do something like, I don't know, once a month, kind of like,
we might have to do some live coding.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is we should try to do some.
We both challenge, like we have the same challenge. We know about it and what we have to do. We have to make it like the coolest this or that.
Or just even like go back and forth. Like, okay, I'm running my gun like this today. See if it works for you on something. You know what I mean? Like kind of go back and forth or maybe like even like I said, like let's try to paint something at like those high settings of some sort. And then like,
see who has better results.
And then we can explain, like we can do stuff, or we can take videos of stuff like watching for perfect fuzz, or like watching once it's going to start back ionizing, like explaining things in slow motion. Be kind of cool. We can make it like a news channel.
All right. Well, let me know what you have for ideas because I'm all down.
Right on, buddy.
I like a good channel. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. We'll see you guys all on the next podcast.
Later.